Rolling.
Rock. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Spinner Rack. Today we are talking about Marvel's Secret Invasion. Yes, they're going to be making a show about it. I mean, it's a shocker, but hey, you know they have a lot of things in the can that they're interested in doing, and so based off the Captain America and Winter Soldier, aka with the Falcon, we're going to be talking about this because there were many different surprises, and we're going to bring this on to our boy Cal and CA to do some of the heavy lifting. So say what's up to the people, guys. Professor CA,
Ready to rock, man.
Cal, and PD. So hey, give us a little background on this Cal. Secret Invasion. What is it in the comics? What can we expect?
Well, there's this guy, Brian Michael Bendis, who writes these stories and ruins everything. And this is probably one of the ones that he did the most damage with, which was called Secret Invasion. See, every so often characters just fall out of the mainstream. You were a character that everybody knew about, and then for whatever reason, and this is like editorial decisions. They kind of put you on ice for a little bit, a couple years, 5 years, and then they'll bring you back in, give people a little chance to forget you, and so on and so forth. Bendis decided, hey, instead of putting these people on ice, why don't we make it so that they were Skrulls? So this ship lands, and all these people come running off of it, like Luke Cage, Spider-Woman, even like I think the Invisible Woman and Mr. Fantastic came running off the ship, and they're like, hey, where are you guys? He's like, oh, we've been gone for years. What do you mean you've been gone for years? What are you talking about? And he's like, no, that's not me. That's a Skrull. And it proceeded to be 8 issues of incredibly intense malarkey, just churned scat. And we had to suffer through it because Bendis was the great one, and there was nothing we could do about it.
Is he still considered the great one in some circles, not in all circles?
He's
great, all right.
He came to DC. DC paid him a boatload of money to move over there to help them out.
And he didn't.
Well, that depends on what type of averages you're looking. It's a different story.
I'm looking at all the averages. He didn't.
Continue with the story, please. No commentary, just the story straight.
That's the story.
No editorials on Bendis, please. Just the story.
I do without any editorials whatsoever. The Skrulls came and they were impersonating all of these important people. We're talking from, you name it. Like I just said, you got Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, Luke Cage, Spider-Woman, especially people who weren't necessarily a part of mainstream stories, but also some people who were part of these mainstream stories. And then the thing with the Skrulls is that once you got Skrulls in the mix, everybody is suspect. You can't necessarily tell who's who. And that's one of the great things about the story, because you can always switch stuff up in a heartbeat as to who's real and who's not. But it also drags things out because a lot of the stuff that had happened previous to this got turned upside down and inside out because you're saying, oh, that story never happened. That was a Skrull. In one instance, you had the Incredible Hulk fighting Black Bolt, but then Black Bolt came off the ship. And you're like, wait a minute. So you mean that whole fight, the Hulk was fighting with Black Bolt, that was a Skrull? How did you pull that off? Oh, well, we'll get to that in the future. And they never did. They never did. They never explained it. But that was the gist of the story. And we're going to probably be getting more of the same in this series.
Black Bolt meaning the leader of the Inhumans and one of the most powerful powers in the Marvel Universe.
Yes, sir, Bob. Exactly that guy.
Well, one of the things that I remember Bendis saying was that when you had a character that wasn't acting the way he was supposed to, that character is kind of scrully. And just the actual usage of that sort of term really turned me off because it was just like, hey, who's in a bad way? And you can see, I think DC was trying to change Batman at the same time. They didn't make him a Skrull, but they kind of had Batman die or sort of die. And then it's like said, but they were saying in the press he was a jerk, and it seemed like Marvel was doing that same thing on a larger scale with all of their characters. They were like, all right, because I think Marvel had done it before with in the X-Men, because at one point Wolverine was revealed to be a Skrull, and there was stories that Eric Larson was doing. It's like, was he a Skrull during those stories, or when he fought the Hulk this other time? But it was ultimately because he became Death, what's it, a herald of apocalypse, and it was a little bit there. It kind of had this thing where we were like, well, wait a second, it didn't really fit perfectly. But then it seemed like when we got the Secret Invasion, they were like, hey, nobody likes Elektra anymore. That's Frank's character. Elektra's a Skrull. Like, what the? whoever they didn't like, it seemed like, let's make that person a Skrull. Well, that's really not the strongest way to sort of do it. Most of the time it's sort of playing, even when you have them not acting the way you want them, the way you expect them to do. The hard part is that they know pulling characters that we like, having Wolverine be that, where it's a character we're like, well, what about this story? What about that story? Doing something where you're like, do those stories not work anymore? Or you really questioning that period. And that's the more interesting way to do it, rather than just say editorially, let's go. We didn't like that story, we didn't like that, let's wipe it all out. So I don't think this is the best story, but I mean, they got the Skrulls and they're kind of trying to, utilize them. And obviously they use them in the most recent story possible. So
Yeah. And yeah, and it might be helpful to just kind of set the stage in terms of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and where we kind of left off with Skrulls. It seems like from that perspective, we've been in Captain Marvel, we've been introduced to Talos, and I forget the name of his partner who kind of was playing Maria Hill, but there's Talos, there's that Skrull. Then there's also this baby Skrull. We don't know who that young lady's going to grow up to be. We also had in Spider-Man, I believe Far From Home, we had to reveal that Maria Hill and Nick in that were Skrulls. And I think also what we left off is that we see that Fury is actually in space working with Skrulls, who in this reality are good guys, as opposed to the comics where straight off the bat, like most Skrulls are thought to be nefarious. So it's interesting to see how they're going to utilize all those players and to see where they're going to go with that in Secret Invasion, because it's a secret invasion. So are the Skrulls going to be the bad guy in that? And how does that flip happen? How do they justify that? Or is it going to be the Cree who are going to be the actual bad guys? So
that's a very good question there, Professor. I mean, I was wondering the same thing too. I mean, they really changed the Skrulls on the roles in Captain Marvel and stuff. And if you're gonna have, I don't know if I think it was one of you guys, probably Cal or P, who says that there are other Skrulls. Probably this is just one breakout faction of the Skrulls, and so there may be other Skrulls that may be having this issue. And this also goes back. Didn't Galactus destroy the Skrull homeworld at one point in the comics?
Yeah, yeah.
So
In the comics, yeah.
you have the scattering, so that may be. I don't know. One of you guys may. Then again, you know what? Probably I'm not. I'm giving you guys too much credit. I figured that out my damn self. So that.
I mean, outside of, I don't think there's an Avengers issue where they say the cover is side by side with the Skrulls. So it's kind of hinting that the way they've handled it is like that. But that was just a very brief story. Like Roger Stern, went totally against that, where he had the Skrulls being crazy, where this one Skrull is like, hey, you know what I'm gonna do? This is after that side by side story. It's an annual where the Skrull was trying to say, you know what? I'm gonna lock everyone in there, whatever form they are, and I'm gonna keep myself in the shield, and I will be able to. I will stay, of course, as a supervillain. He's crazy, and it doesn't actually work. But there was a period where the Skrulls were stuck in whatever form they were in for a while. That was I think Steve Englehart played with that for a while. It was interesting to see how that went. But then of course they got their powers back some point later. But I mean, and the only other one was, there's a story called The Lost Generation, where they had a Skrull who was like around the time of Roswell, where he Effigy, who comes to the Earth as like an alien, comes around the Roswell time in the 50s, and he becomes like a politician. But as he's being in government, even though he is kind of a dark sort of government sort of figure, he kind of realizes, like, he kind of works for the side of the angels. He helps, he feels himself as being American. And only at the end of the story where there's a big Skrull versus like the heroes before, the Marvel heroes, where we lose Effigy. But those are a couple of stories that show. A lot of the good ones are Cree Skull War, which ultimately I think that would have been fun to play with, since you had the Kree Skull. You only did it at a small scale in what's that thing, in the Captain Marvel movie. You could do it on a big scale in a long series. But maybe, I don't know what this is. Maybe they've changed stuff to Captain America and the Winter Soldier. maybe they'll try to fit that in there, but they like the secret. They want to give Bendis some money. Well, they don't give people money for stories, I don't think, except for Bendis, because he had too many titles in those, what's those things, in those Daredevil things. His name as producer was all over those things. So they're keeping that man rich. So I don't think Marvel has to pay him for the title or name, but they could, because usually they pay for characters. So the characters are created. There's a good chance he's getting paid for that. But you know, there's I just, as Cal already said, I was kind of not wishing this to be the story, because it was kind of the way he went into it was kind of more editorial than say, hey, I got a cool Skrull story that I want to do. And I don't think he kind of, he likes the Marvel stuff, but he always goes left. Even the closest was when he did the original X-Men. He sort of knew most of those characters, but you see almost immediately the characters change, Gene changes. So going into that, it's a lot.
Bobby Gay. He made Bobby Gay.
That was the he couldn't leave well enough. No, finally got to the end, and he went that far. But ultimately, the hard part with the X-Men, there's so many retcons. It's almost like, let me go to the original X-Men before they, from present day, and retcon them within this major story. So you can see how which I'm really strong on characterization. I don't like that they're kind of using this stuff to, like, the Skrulls can be done very well, but the Bendis story isn't the way to go, in my opinion. So that's all I say. But look, we have to see how it goes.
How do you do secret invasions without the Skrulls? The Skrulls have to be the antagonists to some degree, because they are the reason secret invasion works is that they can shapeshift, right?
Who's in it? We don't know who's in it.
I know, but I'm just saying, we're talking about the essence of what the secret invasion is that the Cree come in, they take people over, and they pretend to be someone else, and then that's how it works. So I mean, look, in this situation, I kind of understand what you're saying, but if we're looking in terms of the MCU, what's going on, they're setting up a lot of different things. So you have the Thunderbolts, you have Zemo, you have the Young Avengers. They're all being foreshadowed in the I don't know what to call it now, but Marvel TV, Disney Plus TV shows. Probably they'll call it something the Marvel TV verse. I don't know. And so we see these things happen. So it looks most likely that this particular thing is going to happen. Somehow the Skrulls are going to be the bad guys, or the misguided at best, as much as we can say. But here, Cal, in terms of the story, I mean, there was a lot more going on than what you put through. What about?
Well, we do want people to read the story, right? We don't want to come over here and just do Mr. Rogers with them.
Well, you want a little more, though, right? Just
I mean, the whole point is to give people understanding what else is going on with the story. I mean, we have the connection with the Marvel cinematic router, but why did this story resonate with so many people? You're saying it didn't, or you're saying it did?
It didn't it resonated with people?
I mean, I hear people talk about it a lot. The comics you see on sale, they do have these trade paperbacks, so that's being sold quite a bit.
Or at least, Cal, can you give us a sense of knowing what already has been laid out by the cinematic universe and what plot lines are kind of left? And with your deep knowledge of the original material, can you take a guess as to what direction Marvel is going to be going in?
I couldn't tell you, because Marvel right now is doing a lot of building, and Secret Invasion did a lot of demolishing at the end of the day, because I mean, that series knocked down a lot of the stuff that had already been established. SHIELD was gone. The superheroes in the raft, they got broken out of. The Baxter building got sent to the negative zone. The Thunderbolt Mountain is attacked. It was just like a bunch of chaos for 8 issues at the end of the day. And the way Bendis writes, there's no resolution by the end. Everything was turned upside down, and you had to try to make your way forward from it. If that resonated with people, I'm not sure. It didn't resonate with me.
Well, in Captain Marvel, they kind of explained that there was a war between the Skrulls and the Cree, but they flipped it with, like, from the Earth's perspective, that the Skrulls are the good guys. And Nick has been kicking it with, like, an intergalactic crew for a minute. We're assuming that that's Sword. So there's a lot of stuff to kind of explain. So now, and Nick, we know in terms of the cast that Talos and Nick Fury are in it. And if that's the case, they have to kind of give us a little bit more information in terms of what has Sword or Nick been working on this whole time that had Talos taking his place on Earth. And if it's a war with the Kree, then I don't know, maybe the Kree find a way. They've been manipulating Skrull soldiers that they've captured, and maybe they're trying to create a way to kind of mimic their powers. And it's all about how can the Skrulls come to Earth and take out these Kree agents without letting the planet know that there was even aliens living amongst them. I don't know, just spitballing at this point.
I hope you're right. I hope you're right, because I don't want to see another GRC event where nothing goes back the way it was. Okay.
No, it's tough because the antagonist of that story are the Skrulls, and we got introduced to the Skrulls as this I mean, well, that's another reason to dislike Captain Marvel the movie. But they were introduced as this sympathetic faction, and then with the Kree, who are these aggressors, when pretty much both of them are aggressors. If you know anything about their history, the Krees are these guys who are like, they're like the Roman Empire at the end of the day. They're just annexing and taking over as much as they can. But the Skrulls, okay, aren't very different, and the Skrulls are seen as more nefarious because they have the ability to take over the shape of a person. So of course that's very insidious in terms of what you would have to deal with when you're fighting these guys. When you have, I mean, the Kree would always have to be on guard as to if they had some spy amongst their midst, and that's why they would get this technology to detect the Skrull along those lines. In this, I don't know exactly what direction they're going to go for. I mean, it seems that they've already cast, I mean, either Coleman or Clark has been cast as Queen Varanki. So it's going to be, you're going to have that. And who's the other character? Somebody
Coleman?
mentioned it. Huh?
Coleman?
No. Not the actress, but the character. One of those two is going to be Varanki, Queen Varanki, and then there's another character.
Abigail Brand.
Right, Brand. So that's also going to be coming into play. But I'm not sure how this is all going to shake out, because they've already established these Skrulls as different from what we've seen in the comics. Even if those Skrulls that we met are a bit different, but we still see, Nick Fury's, like assigning these guys here, take over for me while we're out over here in space. Which is irresponsible, Nick, just so you know.
So just a little further information on this. It's going to be a 6-episode series on Disney Plus.
Oh God.
They're starting the filming this year. Okay, so in England, and so which kind of makes sense. They're putting English actors in that. So,
yeah.
So
6 episodes is a perfect number. I don't want any more than that. And the concept of Skrulls is like, given what Cal was saying, but I also agree with this. It's a very precarious balance. Like, too many Skrulls, or the idea of Skrulls, is kind of almost as dangerous of just leaving a plot line of like super soldiers around, because then it's kind of one of those things that can get out of hand real easy.
Very easy. I agree with you there. So hey, so are you guys interested in seeing it?
Yeah, why not?
It's kind of going to be like that for me. If it's Marvel, I'm gonna want to catch up with Sam. But actually, this is interesting. Going for something from WandaVision, which is really hyped and very spectacular and magical, to the grounded, but yet high anticipation for Captain America: Winter Soldier, to this, which I have absolutely no expectations for. So I look forward to it in that regard, because I have no expectations. So yeah.
Well, Bendis is writing it, so I have very high expectations.
Oh my gosh. I have no high expectations. I worry about it, and I worry about those 6 episodes.
I think he means that they're adapting from a Bendis story, and since Bendis is the great one, we should have high expectations for this malarkey.
I have high expectations for Sam Jackson.
Yeah, Sam
Jackson. Sam Jackson going to be in this thing?
Of course he's going to be in it. He's on it.
Yeah, he's in it for sure.
Another thing too I forgot is that this is another opportunity to bring in who?
into the Marvel
Here
universe.
we go. Who you want to bring into the Marvel universe?
X-Men.
Oh,
They're
come on.
involved in Secret Invasion also. Wasn't Professor X part of it? X-Men
It's
was
not
part
gonna
of it.
happen. This is Disney Plus. Not gonna happen right now. Nothing
Yeah,
big
that's
is gonna
just
happen in Disney Plus.
that's too many. That's too much. Though I could see them doing it. It's like, hey, we got 6 episodes. We could set up a whole bunch of plot lines here that won't be resolved by the 6th episode. Yay!
All
I
I was
think you might have a better shot at Mars. You might have a better shot at getting a Super Skrull or introducing the idea of a Super Skrull.
Oh, that would be great. I could sell that book.
what's the Super Skrull?
Oh, Super
Uh,
yeah, you have the shapeshifters, but a Super Skrull can also shape powers.
Right.
So they can have it at once, and maybe somebody can give me the background on the original introduction of the Super Skrull, but basically it might have been a Fantastic Four. And
Yeah,
he
that
took
was
all the
exactly it.
powers.
The Skrulls wanted to go at the Fantastic Four, but they realized they were at a disadvantage because of the powers. So they outfitted one particular Skrull with all the abilities of the Fantastic Four: the stretching, the invisibility, the flame, and the strength of the thing. And that Super Skrull then went to go do battle with the Fantastic Four. And they did it Marvel style. You know, of course, he battled everybody separately first, and then they got together as the Four, and they put him on, and they put him on his keister. But then later on, and this was coming out of that whole thing with Secret Invasion, they started making more Super Skrulls. And these were Skrulls that were like Super Skrull with the power of the Hulk, Super Skrull with the power of Thor. They had a Skrull invasion of Wakanda. So, they went exponentially further than the original Super Skrull. But for decades, that was the only Super Skrull, just that guy with the powers of the Fantastic Four. And then they decided, well, let's see we know who's the person who decided to muck it up. Let's see how much further we can go with it. Yeah, let's have some fun. Are we having fun now, PD? We having fun?
Stop. Well, that's the thing. When bringing up the actual original stuff, you have to remember that the way the Skrulls work, when they say I would impersonate Mars, I would just come in, destroy your whole life. That's what they would do, and they would, in this whole McCarthy type of thing, people would just be distrustful of Mars. They wouldn't say, "Ooh, maybe he's not who he is." Like that was the hook of the Skrulls, where they would come in, they would screw up your life, they would impersonate you. They wouldn't really slip in. They would just like do everything to mess your stuff up. And then by the time you come back, you're like, here comes the police, and you're like running the other way. And the whole thing is that you'd have to get out of the mess that they created, rather than, hey, these guys are this, and then turning them into these sort of good guys. It's kind of trying to give Marvel their own sort of the Klingons from the next generation. Where it's kind of like, hey, these guys, well, they kind of went for the sympathy. They were kind of attacked. They're kind of nice, nice guys. And I looked at a little bit of cast that they have in this thing, and it feels like what Mars and Cal said, that this is all set up for something else.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was going to be like a big movie, because you have people that have been in movies. You got, what is it, Ben Mendelsohn, and then you have Sam Jackson and Kingsley and Ader, and that sort of thing. You got these big names, Amelia Clark. Like, you could do a movie. Like, you can spend movie, or don't do a movie, do the 6 episodes, but make it feel like they say, like the Twilight Zone or Sopranos, that there's some real weight to it. No setup, real powerful stuff that happens in this thing. But obviously it's going to be like somewhat of a buddy jokey thing, and smart aleck stuff, instead of some real intrigue of someone coming in and mess. Well, you can't, because Sam Jackson's in it. I don't know what's going to happen here. I can't tell what's happening. So let me stop talking and hope for the best.
Yeah, we can hope for the best. I mean, if they give me a Sam Jackson like they did in Winter Soldier, that would be great. I was like, wow, who knew? I didn't expect such a good action scene from Sam, and the way they set that up, just like, for just kind of work with the actor, but still give him a shine. I think they did an excellent job with that whole chase scene in the car and the automated. So it'll probably be like high level spy thriller mixed with sci-fi.
Yeah, that was the closest they got to doing what sort of Steranko kind of did, where you just driving down the street, and the next thing you know, everyone's attacking. And it's like, you got to get out of the danger, and that sort of thing, and building suspense. So
Yeah, when a flying car actually meant something.
Yeah, and he referenced that, right? 'Cause didn't it say like the flying ability was damaged or something, propulsion damage?
Right. Computer said that. So, yeah.
Oh man, no, I want to see the car fly.
No, can't see that. They saved that for Iron Man.
So they had, so just as a aside, not Secret Wars trade paperback is what, when I take a look at the Amazon listings and stuff like that, their comic book is in the top 100. They are,
Secret Invasion.
no, just say Secret Wars is 116. House of M is number 56. They've been roughly staying there, but Secret Invasions has been moving up. It's 90 now. And is selling the best-selling trade paperbacks right now for comics. So I think
90 is pretty much on the bottom.
it's on the bottom. It wasn't there before.
Why are we looking at the sales numbers?
Yeah, it's moving up. So the point I'm trying to make is that there's people are buying more into it because of the whole stuff coming out, so people can read. I don't know. I have to check Comixology and see how they've been moving on that. But I think that this is going to be a good. They have so many seeds that this is a good idea to do. You know, it could bring in many of the different things that we're talking about. You know. So hey guys, is there anything else we want to cover? I think we should do it. I think this day tomorrow will do it. I think it's going to be successful. You know, I think it's just the right way to go. Just as long as they can do a good job of explaining it, and if they follow Bendis's pathways that they've given to everybody, we should be fine.
Just resolve it by the 6th episode. That's all I say.
Yeah, right. They're gonna do the baton to phase 5 or whatever it is.
The good news is I can skip this one and still enjoy Loki.
It's not coming up a lot. Well, listen, guys, Spinner Rack.
Out.
Oh,
Jess, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to